go. Any minute now. We're so professional.
Professional-ish.
Live.
Live?
Oh,
Are we
you know
live?
what?
What?
I wasn't sharing the screen. We don't have the test pattern. So we're live.
Well,
Oh,
live from the Plutopia News Network. This is the Plutopia Happy Hour. And our guests this week are me. And over there in that little square, Susan Sheeler. And in the neighboring square here on the Hollywood Squares, John Lebkowski. And our special guest, Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake, John.
Yes.
well, just we have no money for the bread.
I have
What shall we do?
I have posted this on Facebook now so that people will find us, will trip over us, and will wonder what the hell
Let
it
the
is
poor
we're
people
doing.
cook up their Gucci bags and eat them.
If they
I
have
am
no
really
money
sorry
for-
I wasn't sharing the test pattern. I can share it right now,
There it is. That's a good looking test pattern.
and then I'll take it off again.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to get down to brass tacks.
All right.
Do you have
Cake.
brass tacks in the cake? I don't know if I want a piece of that.
Do kids still put tacks on chairs as their teachers?
You can see this, right?
I thought that was just my
Yes.
trick. Oh,
It's a cake.
rub it in, John. You're an evil man.
You're just not right. Put that away.
It's not
Nobody-
like these are hard to get. That's the whole point of the discussion tonight
It's
is
well,
how
yeah.
easy it is to make a cake now.
Actually, you can order it and it will be brought directly to your door.
It used to be hard to make cakes. I mean, it used to be that you had to pull a lot of stuff together and am I
Well, yeah,
still
because they didn't
sharing
have the
that cake?
mixes. Is that what you mean? Because of the mixes?
In the 1930s, actually in 1930, P. Duff and Sons started working on something that they actually got patented in like 1935. It's an invention that relates to a dehydrated flour for use in making pastry products and to a process of making the same. It was later modified to include adding fresh eggs versus including powdered eggs. And this was a
Wow.
big breakthrough. Well, first of all, one big breakthrough was this idea of putting all the dry ingredients together. So all you have to do is add liquid of some form,
Mhm.
and you've got a cake. And then they decided that they should change it so that the eggs are not included, but you have to add the eggs because that was supposed to make the people who are making cakes. They actually say women because this was back when women made cakes.
Back when men didn't make cakes.
Yeah, I know. Back
Real
in the
men
dark
make
ages
cakes.
before men could make cakes. American women wanted to feel more involved in the cake baking process. So
Yeah.
cake mixes that required them to add eggs would sell better.
Because then you really feel like you're doing something for your family and your man. I baked you a cake.
Your dude.
Wow.
So
And-
what this
and
was
the
really
whole-
about originally was using up molasses.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, apparently they had a lot of molasses, so they were like putting molasses in this thing. I guess they were drying the molasses. I don't know.
Well, so now what? Corn
But-
syrup?
Oh yeah. So what it was, this guy Duff figured out how to make molasses dry and put it into the flour mix, and then he mixed in everything else. So this was the idea of making a mix. And really they were trying to sell molasses, they were trying to sell flour, they were trying to sell sugar, all these ingredients, and they put them all together. And then the product became something else. The product was convenience. And this was the first step in a revolution that leads to today when everybody can get all kinds of conveniences, all kinds of
Mhm.
affordances where food is concerned. There's all kinds of ways that you can buy prepared foods, but I think it all started with that cake mix.
Yeah, that cake mix was funded by the makers of diabetic prescription drugs, or so
No
I hear.
doubt.
Maybe that was just the end product.
There was another thing about how there was this explosion. I think there were like 200 companies selling cake mixes or something like that. And then in the 1950s, it started to kind of level off and flatten out, and they weren't selling as much. So they started this other thing where there were all these like advertisements and magazines where they would show these elaborate cakes with all kinds of fancy icing. And the
Uh-huh.
icing became a big deal, and icing made the cake sexy again. So it took off again. And after World War II, it became a really big deal.
Yeah, everyone would have a cake that you could just like grandma always had cake under some kind of crystal glass bell jar. Always there was cake.
Yeah,
I remember
gotta meet
that.
cake.
And it became, I guess, it was something that became affordable, and it was no longer right. I mean, isn't that's essentially what you're saying?
Well, I
Is it's
mean,
like
yeah,
everybody could have it.
it became not just affordable, but it became easy enough that a busy person could reasonably sit down and mix together a cake and make the thing, and it
Hmm.
wasn't going to be like hours of effort.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
I don't even think I've ever made a scratch cake myself. I have a long
Oh,
history
I
of making
have.
cakes, but it was from mixes. Like my mother used to buy what they called answer cakes. This was a Betty Crocker thing, I think. And the answer cake, I saw one just like this today that Duncan Hines is making. I can't remember what they called it, but basically it's a cake that's real easy to put together. You just put it in a little pan and mix it up and cook it, and then they provide the icing. You put that on. And I used to like to make those things and eat them. So my
Yeah.
mother would do a treasure hunt, and she would like put clues out, and one clue would lead to another clue, and I'd be like looking all over the house, and eventually I would come to the end of the treasure hunt, and there would be this answer cake there in a box, and I'd go make it. And
well, I
then
haven't made
Nice.
scratch cake, but I have made scratch cookies a lot. I love to make Christmas cookies just because I have all the little things to make the different shapes. But I had a disturbing discovery regarding cake not too long ago. I was clearing out a cabinet, and we have a number of these Tupperware cake holders, cake boxes, whatever they are, that seal up. And I thought this one that was in this cabinet was empty because I hadn't had a cake since around Christmas. So I pull it out and I hear this rattling inside.
Oh God, no.
And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to open this. It's got to
Just
be
throw it away.
it's got to be Mushroom City. But I peeked in, and the cake was perfectly preserved. There was no mold. It was hard as a rock. And God
Wow.
knows how many preservatives are in that sucker.
Oh my
It was one of those
God.
HEB quickie cakes. So it was just probably pumped full of
Oh,
embalming.
sure. Yeah. And the other thing is that I would say about the cake revolution, if you will, is that when you do make a cake from scratch, baking is one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your lifetime. And you have to know math. I mean, if you're going to do it from scratch, you have to know math and you have to be exact. There's no, oh, an extra pinch of salt. That shit does not fly.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's really an
this
art.
it is. I mean, any kind of baking really, but when you're doing something that's like that, you have to be really, it's hard and it takes a long time. So let them eat cake is but now that doesn't hurt so much when they say that. What hurts now is I'm going to Cancun while they don't have any electricity.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I should
Let
say
them
"let
eat
them eat
snow.
cake" it was never Marie Antoinette never said those words,
Mm-mm.
and it really wasn't cake; it was brioche. And
I'd settle for some brioche right now,
it,
actually.
I mean, it was attributed to some great princess, I think unnamed, was told the peasants had no bread, so said, let them eat cake.
Mhm.
I think Rousseau put that in a book or something. It was attributed to Marie Antoinette, but she didn't actually say it.
No, she didn't. She
But you
wasn't.
know, the sentiment is something that we can all kind of resonate with right now. This idea that peasants have no bread, so let them eat cake.
Mhm.
Well, that's vaguely similar to things attributed to Donald Trump. He always tells you, I didn't say that. Prove it, even though you have the videotape.
He also likes to talk about the biggest, most beautiful piece of chocolate cake you've ever seen. You remember that?
Oh Lord. Well, I was thinking about QAnon saying the peasants have no bread, so let them eat children.
Oh,
Ouch. Pizza,
Jeez.
maybe, but no, children, thank you.
didn't Biden just ask somebody the other day, don't you think that we suck the blood out of little kids or something
Well, I
like
mean, yeah,
that?
the thing was that somebody asked him, what was it about? It was about, do Democrats believe that, well, now I can't remember.
It was something inane.
It was some inane thing about, do Democrats believe this thing? And which it was kind of stupid to think that they would. And his response was, don't Republicans believe that that Democrats eat children?
And they do believe that. I've had that asked many times by people who should know better.
Oh my God, what's wrong with people? Well,
Let's see.
okay, so it was Betty
Oh,
Crocker.
this is here. Critics slam Biden for sucking the blood out of kids comment after town hall.
Of course they do.
So the question is, are there people in the Republic? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Somebody asked whether Democrats, let's see. The reporter asked him if there are any Democrats who really want to defund the police. And Biden said, are there people in the Republican Party who think we're sucking the blood out of kids? And the puzzled reporter responded, I'm not sure.
Oh
Well, that's a good reporter.
God. I mean, Sartre would be proud. I mean, we have slid into the absurd. We are fully there. It's I don't even understand how you can't just get up and laugh at everything that's happening right now. It is so fucking absurd.
Actually,
If you
it's
weren't
like
crying.
Sartre joined forces with Mike Judge to create
Yeah.
Yeah, you
satire.
couldn't sell tickets to the theater of the absurd because the real life is way more absurd than that.
Yeah. What was it? I posted something the other day that said, why read dystopian fiction when you can just pay attention?
Just open your eyes and go outside. But you don't have to go outside, just turn on the TV.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're living in troubling times, but there is a remedy. I have it right here.
Woohoo.
I'm telling you, man, this is not cool. So, all right. So who was the first mass producer of those cakes, like those quick cakes?
Well, I think it was that guy Duff that I was talking about,
So
but eventually General Mills picked up on it, and
General Mills.
they invented a fictional character called Betty Crocker.
Oh, I love her.
And used that as the brand for their cake mixes and that sort of thing. And then Duncan Hines was a guy who he actually wrote about food, but he started, he started putting his brand on various food items that were being sold. So that's where Duncan Hines came from. Pillsbury, I'm not so sure of.
That guy, that little guy. I don't trust him for a minute.
But cake mixes really redefined the whole concept of baking. Now, there's some people who are getting back to the original concept. Myself included, I actually like to bake bread.
Yeah, it is fun, and a lot of people are getting back to that kind of thing. But when you do something like we were talking about earlier, you have to be so careful with the temperatures and stuff again. But yet, we've somehow gotten to a point where we're able to do that. We don't have to go to a special baker to bake bread because we're able to make our own without having these ovens that fire at a specific heat.
One thing that's interesting is you no longer need to go buy a cookbook, because some of the best recipes I've uncovered were online. I just thought about, I wonder if I could make whatever. I type it into Google, and 400 recipes pop up, and if you're careful and look at the sources, you could come up with some great recipes. I've gotten some good, dessert recipes, great stuff.
In the early days of the pandemic, I decided at some point that I was going to make ciabatta.
Oh Lord.
And I went, I was looking for yeast and I couldn't find any yeast anywhere. It took me forever to finally scare up some yeast, because yeast had sold out everywhere because everybody was making bread.
Yeah,
Everybody. It's like it had
everybody.
become a huge thing.
I've always wanted to churn my own butter. Yeah,
I've done that before in a blender.
That's
Wasn't
but
bad.
What, you didn't use a
you have to use the
butter
churn.
Come
You
on.
have to use the actual churn.
It was the same thing. All the churns were sold out. We used to buy whole milk.
City has them on their own sale.
We bought whole milk, and you could take the cream off the top of that and make the butter out of it, as I recall.
That was,
We were hippies.
We used
shopped
to
at the
make
good food store.
Oh yeah, I remember. Which store was that?
The good food store. There was a store, very successful. There were like, I think 2 of them at some point, maybe even 3, called the Good Food Stores. They were run by the Shaw brothers, Hoot Shaw and his brothers. And we were in there all the time. We did all of our shopping there, and they just sold, natural foods.
Yeah.
And things like, that's where we could get whole milk and that sort of thing. And then we moved to San Marcos for a couple of years. And when we were down there, we got together with some people and started a food co-op, which was like a buying club, really.
Mhm.
We would all get together every week, and different people would come up with sources for different foods and bring them in bulk. And people would have, a list of things they wanted to get. There was a weekly run to the market down in on Zarzamora Street in San Antonio, where there were a bunch of places where they sold, bulk produce, and they would buy produce down there. So we were we were big time foodies back then, and hippie natural foods people, which today I'm very happy about, because I think it made me a healthier person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of hippie natural foods, there was a natural food store and do-it-yourself bakery in Berkeley. Do-it-yourself, but it was just a bunch of hippie guys that thought they could bake, and they were doing pretty decent stuff until one day one of them was a smart ass and hung the sign out front that said, "When life gives you yeast infections, make bread."
Oh, Jesus.
And a bunch of women came in and decorated the bakery. It's like, hello, tone deaf.
Not only that, but what the fuck, dude? Are you trying to sell food or not? Or penicillin?
They're trying
to.
What
the fuck is wrong with you? Come on.
They're trying to prove to people that they had way too much acid.
I'll say, I always feel like I don't eat processed bread, but when I was a kid, we did, because it was really. It was better or just as good as the bread that you would get at Piggly Wiggly Bakery, of which there weren't any Piggly Wiggly bakeries in my part of the world. So we would get this stuff, and it would be, you know what I'm talking about. It's in the loaf. It's all, some of it's Wonder Bread or whatever. And I always feel like it's not been cooked. So like you have to toast it or it's just raw. You can make little dough balls out of these things, and it's not. Do you feel like it's all the way done? I don't know. Is it meant to be cooked more?
I just think it's all the preservatives and extra goodies that they put in those loaves. When I was a kid, when I was a Boy Scout and we went camping, I would actually make the little bread balls,
Right.
ball them up and wrap them in plastic. So, because if you took a loaf of bread, it wasn't going to survive. So you just cut to the chase
No,
and reduce it to its little compact form.
that makes so
And they
much
were actually pretty
sense.
tasty that way. The regular bread was like, it's just
That
you're,
makes
you're
so,
eating
that is
air.
so smart. Wow. That is brilliant thinking, Scoop. Damn it.
No, it wasn't me. It was was my guru. I had a friend, John may have known him, Wiley Woodard, who is one of the local weirdos in our hometown. He was the first guy I knew
Wow.
that got a mohawk. I mean,
Oh, really?
he was way ahead of it. He gave
Wally
himself
Woodard.
a mohawk, and he ended up being a funeral director, the
Oh,
weirdest funeral director you ever knew.
I would
But
love to meet him.
oh well, he's gone now. But boy, he had a storied career.
Wow, that is awesome.
He would ride around in his funeral suit in our hometown. You know, on a little Cushman scooter that he
Yeah.
kind of painted black. So it
Have-
matched.
That makes me think about there were some guys in our hometown. I can't remember who it was that worked in a funeral parlor. Did you ever hear this story about the guys who they were bored one night, so they took one of the bodies and sat it in a chair and propped it up and kind of put a cigarette in his hand, and he was just kind of sitting there like that, and the family walked in.
Oh
No.
no.
I
Well,
don't think they held that job any longer.
yeah, that might, that sounds worthy of what
Oh,
I think he had more smarts because he actually lasted in the business.
yeah,
I
that's
when I was
horrible.
when I was in college up at the University of North Texas, he was a funeral director in one of the little towns, between Denton and Dallas. I forget what, Farmers Branch, one of those places, and still just weird as can be.
Wow. That is crazy.
He sounds like a
All
very
the
special person.
we
Yeah.
went that took us down a rabbit hole just from little, naked bread balls. That was
Naked
brilliant.
balls.
We
Now,
haven't talked
that sounds
about
like a product to promote. Ron Popeil died.
That's true.
The father of the pocket fisherman. He would have been the perfect guy to promote little brown bread ball.
Naked bread balls.
bread balls. Well,
Come on
we
now.
haven't talked about pie yet.
Free bread balls.
Free bread balls.
That sounded
Oh.
that kind of sketchy. Let's change the subject. Wonder Warthog meets Pie Man. Now that's a great adventure there.
I think we
Oh,
should talk about
yeah.
pie.
I love pie. Pie is one of my favorite, but just to hit cake for a second, if I eat cake, I don't like frosting. So when I eat pie, I don't like there to be too much innards.
God, you and I would be like Jack Spratt and his wife. I'd eat all the frosting, you'd eat all the cake.
Yeah, we could totally do that. I'm down with that. In fact, when I was it started when I was 12. I started asking for cakes on my birthday with no frosting. And so my family would make 2 cakes.
Do you take your pie that way? You just get the crust and
If I could
make one of those for you.
It
I've got a
makes-
graham cracker crust in the pantry.
not graham crust or the actual crust, or the only frosting I really like is on a carrot cake. That works for me because it's not too, I think it's the overwhelming sweetness that gets to me.
I think a graham cracker crust is kind of an abomination, really.
I think it's
That's why it's still in the pantry.
it shouldn't be called a crust at all.
They used to put those on cheesecakes a lot.
Yes, they did. It's like salting a margarita glass. Good luck.
Well, my
Yeah,
house graham
cheesecake.
cracker crust looks like a flying saucer. It's all plastic wrapped, and it's got a little aluminum foil thing around it. And this thing is just compressed. And I probably had it in the pantry for 2 years,
Oh my
and it
God.
looks perfectly fresh. And you look for the expiration date, and it just says whatever.
Well, have you guys heard of tiny pies yet?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
What do you think? Because
I've eaten tiny pies.
they deliver or
They're
through
pretty good. Oh, you
Favor
know
or
what?
whatever.
Let me make a note of that.
Yeah, through Favor they deliver and they are good. They have like savory and sweet pies and they're so good.
I'm feeling slighted because out here in the vast wasteland, nobody delivers out here except for the meth salesman.
Well,
And he comes with a plain brown wrapper in the dead of night.
if they can figure out how to make it worth their while monetarily, I'm sure that they will fly it via drone if they can get $1 out of it.
Well, I hate to bring cookies into this, but there's always Tiff's treats.
Yes. I walked by a doormat today that said, "Please don't knock unless you've brought Tiff treats."
It's a great advertising method.
Oh my God, I love them too. How do you not love Tiff's treats? And they made it through the pandemic. You know what else made it through the pandemic is Little Lucy's Donuts.
Oh,
Oh my God, if you guys hadn't had Little Lucy's Donuts, give them a shot. They are really, really good. They're tiny little donuts, and you get like a bag of 5 for $5. And then, like, for an extra $3, you get like 15 of them or something. They're so good. And they come with dipping sauce if you're into that.
okay. Hold on for a minute. I'm going to do my thing, which is this.
Oh, see.
Okay.
They look very sugary.
Well, and you can ask them to leave the sugar off, which I do.
Can
I
you
say
get the low-cal version of these somewhere?
the only way you can get low-cal is ask for no sugar and don't use the dipping sauce. I have to
Wow,
say
look
it
at all
that way.
the types they have.
I
Oh
know
my
it's
God.
so amazing.
Golden
good.
There's the
Retriever.
dippings.
Mhm.
Wow.
And Favor will bring that to your house.
I like
Well, we should ask
I
these people to
Chihuahua.
sponsor us.
I know,
the
right?
Chihuahua was chocolate and jalapeno. That's right up my alley.
I know, right? It's so
One of my
fun.
favorite things in the Central Market Bakery is they make a great jalapeno cheese bread that's just got cheese all in it.
Oh yeah, I know.
Jalapenos. Those are my basic food groups there.
Yeah.
Some people are opium junkies. I'm a cheese junkie. I mean, I just take that stuff and try to mainline it. I love cheese.
Cheese is very good. I have actually gotten away from, except for the occasional slip on Amy's ice cream, I've gotten away from dairy. But man, the donut, that cakey kind of stuff like we were talking about, like that sort of sweet stuff is just like that's where my brain goes when I want something sweet.
Well, let's examine why you want to get away from dairy.
Okay.
You have something against cows?
Actually, the reason I don't want to eat dairy is because I love cows.
Oh, so we're picking on the cows with our cheese fetish.
No, I love cheese. It's one of the reasons that I've stopped is it's of course it's cruelty with rennet and all that stuff, but the fact is it just absolutely disgusts me to think about it.
Well, actually, having grown up in cattle country, if you don't milk the poor little cows, they suffer.
Yes, but how do you make the cheese? You have to have a certain kind of rennet, right, to make the cheese.
Well, you have to just get the cream, the milk, the cream, whatever. And I'm not a cheese maker, so I can't take it any further than that. But it happens outside of the cow, so it's not like
but the rennet is the lining of the cows.
Cheese factory cows.
Yeah, well, the rennet is actually the lining of the cow's udder or stomach or something.
It's actually enzymes produced in the stomachs of ruminant mammals.
Yeah.
Ruminant
Whatever
mammals
those are.
And they do have vegetarian rennet, but then at the same time, I feel like, well, I've already kind of come this far and I don't eat meat. I love cheese. Don't get me wrong. I'm from the South. Queso is and should not be considered cheese, but is a cheese, form of cheese. And it is a hard thing for me to say no to sometimes. I fully admit I am human. I am Texan. Queso is, lifeblood. What are
Yeah,
you going to do?
I've been
It
trying
is kind
to.
of sad. They butcher calves
Hmm.
and for veal, and part of what they do is extract the rennet from the inner mucosa of the fourth stomach chamber.
Yep. And that's what they use to make cheese. So it's hard, it's hard to think about and eat at the same time.
I just do plausible deniability. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Can I have a second helping?
I totally get it. And that's one of my, I know I'm just telling you all about my tastes and everything right now, but that is one of my, sensory, pleasures is that fat, like cream, like, ice cream, yogurt, that melted cheese, that mouthfeel of really creamy stuff that you don't get unless you're using some kind of fat, which is usually a mammal milk based thing.
Mammal milk.
Unless you're going to go the whipped cream route, the Cool Whip route, and it's just oil.
There.
That just freaks me out though.
Cool Whip.
Oh God, that's
What did
so
they make
gross.
Cool Whip out of?
It was oil. It was
vegetable oil, right?
Yeah, I just whipped the hell out of it and added, I'm gonna guess, cornstarch. Although, when did cornstarch actually make its way here to America? Or, I mean, not make its way. When did America invent cornstarch?
Corn was already here. That was
But I mean, like the high fructose corn syrup, that's what I meant, not cornstarch. My mistake. The high fructose corn syrup we made, but when? How long have we been using it?
Until 1851, cornstarch was used primarily for starching laundry and for other industrial uses.
How weird.
Cornstarch is now used as a thickening agent in liquid-based foods, as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's masa, which you use to thicken up your chili. That's part of a chili recipe. You have to throw a little masa in.
Doesn't arrowroot work too as a thickening agent? I don't know why I think that.
Oh, wow. The corn is fermented before they extract the germ that they make the cornstarch out of.
Really?
Fermented corn. Now that sounds familiar.
That does sound really familiar.
Yes, let's make some corn mash.
I think that
corn
sounds
ethanol.
We would never ethanol. Yeah.
Corn liquor.
Oh, but that's good stuff.
Ethanol. Wasn't she in the I Love Lucy?
No. Yeah. Ethanol. I loved her.
I was in a drinking contest one time where we had corn liquor and Everclear. And we were alternating them.
No.
And my parents said that they were afraid I was going to die that night, not from alcohol poisoning, but they thought I was going to drown in the toilet.
I've come close. Well, John, remember the midnight movies we used to go to in our little town? And my friends and I, a number of times, came in with a bag of oranges, and they stopped when they saw us with the paper bags. It's just oranges, I can only eat fruit. It's like, oh, okay. We had taken a hypodermic needle and some Everclear and injected these oranges with Everclear, and by the end of the movie, we were barely mobile.
Oh my God. We did that with watermelon. Of course, I'm sure everyone's done that. But the idea of doing it, that never would have occurred to me to do something that portable.
Yeah. Well, it was a good mixer, It's kind of kind of a organic screwdriver, I guess.
Man, that is such a great idea. See,
I,
there are
I
just
would have
some
loved to
things
have
that
done it
miss
with
me.
the watermelon, but that would have been kind of obvious, lugging the
You
watermelon
wouldn't,
into the movie theater.
you would not have gotten away. What do you think of that? Isn't that
The
hilarious?
official cigarette. Oh God, marathon.
1984.
Susie
Woohoo!
sent that.
That's so funny. I mean, how long ago did they have, when was the last time they sponsored something?
Well, there's a lot of sponsorships by the still existing tobacco brands. Well, the vapors, they until they got busted with reality, they were sponsoring a lot of stuff.
The
Yeah.
vapors?
The vape folk,
Oh, vapors.
The
those
folk
who
are
vape.
vapors.
Yeah, I got it.
Not the vipers.
the vapors and the vapees. I'm not sure which is
You
which.
know, since we had Stephanie on the show and we were talking about the medical marijuana stuff, I've been to 2 doctors and neither one of them know anything about that registry.
Yeah.
Nothing. They know nothing about it.
Well, it's so hard for anyone to understand. I can't blame them for not wanting to know.
Well, but they don't know that they weren't aware that the law had been signed.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, at least, I mean, I don't expect any of them. In fact, and I totally 100% understand why they don't want to prescribe cannabis. And it's because there's not been any studies. I mean, how can you in good conscience tell somebody to take a certain amount of marijuana? You have no idea what the amount of THC is in it.
Actually, there have been a lot of studies. This friend of mine, Michael Aldrich, who's a PhD, haven't seen him in years, but he ran the Fitzhugh Ludlow Memorial Library in San Francisco.
Wow.
And it was this place in North Beach. There was a big library of everything that they could find that had been published about marijuana, particularly medical marijuana. And got to know this other doctor. What was his name? Senior moment. Met another doctor who testified at the California state legislature when they were trying to do the California marijuana initiative, and he was citing a lot of studies. But
yeah, and that
that's marijuana. People will always say, well, that's not legitimate. It's
and that's the issue. There haven't been legitimate studies done by the AMA. That's what he's talking about. It's not about these smaller studies that are happening. When Yale and Harvard start producing actual studies and stuff, I mean, that will be a different story. But right now, there's no big, really well-known or names attached to these studies right now. There are a ton of them, and I believe them. I mean, I started the normal chapter in North Carolina, and I got to meet Perry Parks and a whole bunch of guys who have been fighting the fight forever, trying to get this people to understand. And they are doctors, but my doctor not wanting to write a prescription for it, I fully and completely understand that, and I don't blame him. Just because he gets his information from the AMA, and I get that. I'll go to a different doctor for that. You know what I mean? It's just,
it really depends on the doctor, the age perhaps, and the background. Because when Clarissa got her California medical marijuana card, we went. She was working at Kaiser Permanente, so she went into her Kaiser doctor. He said, "Sure, we're very aware of that. We don't have a formal stand on it, but if you think it's going to do you good, here you go."
Yeah.
And out here, though, she'd ask her MS doctor, and he didn't want to even talk about it because it's like, you're in Texas.
Have you talked about have you gone out to the registry thing yet?
No, we haven't really looked into it.
It sure does sound like a good deal. I
Well,
mean,
It looks like there may be some federal action pretty soon. When marijuana becomes generally legal, there'll be a lot of studies.
Yeah, well,
And there'll be a lot of.
Yes.
Clarissa will definitely attest to the effectiveness.
As will I. I
We-
mean,
We didn't get it from the legal source, but the
well,
source,
yeah. And
which
the
we
guy
identify,
right.
provided her some, and it has helped with her seizures a lot.
And my doctors are fully aware of my use, and they have in fact covered all asses by giving me a prescription of Marinol, so that there's a reason for THC to be in my presence. So I get drug tested a lot.
Marinol?
Marinol is synthetic marijuana.
Oh, really?
And it was
it's
invented.
okay?
Oh, I don't use it.
I mean, it's legal in Texas.
It is. It's a Schedule 1 drug, which means, I mean, it's like aspirin,
They managed to eliminate the really bad side effect of marijuana, the thing where it like makes you feel good.
I don't know, because I haven't taken any of it. I mean, it's really, like, when my doctor decided to give me the prescription, he kind of basically said, "Don't, this shit will make you sick." The reason I'm giving this to you is so that you can treat yourself in the way that you think is best, because I trust you. But you get drug tested often because of these other things. And so.
Oh, that is a wise physician giving you plausible deniability.
Also, the very physician who said he would not prescribe it because he doesn't know enough about it, but he knows his patients well enough to say, I know that helps me. He's a cool guy. I mean, I totally get where he's coming from.
Well, it's like I said, it's going to be generally legal soon enough.
Well,
there may be federal action pretty soon.
The great argument, the legislature, the governor, all those guys are always whining. We don't have enough money for this. We don't have enough money for that. And these states surrounding us are just, taking a lot of money to the bank.
They're raking it
because they brought in medical marijuana. They legalized recreational, and a number of things. Gambling. I'm not a big gambler, but I do it when it's available.
Yeah.
But, all that money is being sucked out of Texas that it could be at least put to good use. Tax it. I don't mind if they legalize it and tax it. That will go to provide money for good projects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it too. I do worry about what happens when someone or actually Monsanto gets a hold of it and decides to make it so that you could only grow it if you buy their seeds, and it only produces this kind or that kind, and it's also got this, and you have to get, you know what I mean? I don't, that worries me. It may already be happening. I don't know. That's another thing to consider.
A rapidly developing industry around cannabis. And,
oh yeah.
In fact, I think you can buy cannabis stocks now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of issues around the financing of cannabis and the money being made. I don't know if they're still able to use the actual banking system.
Not federal.
Yeah, because of the federal laws. So there's a lot of workarounds. People are trying to use, Bitcoin, things like that. But that's kind of sketchy even.
Yeah, but I know what you're talking about. I think, John, you can like buy stock in Willie Nelson's brand or something like that. Like but I don't know, maybe you don't make any money off the actual weed, but just off the paraphernalia. See, I'm thinking about things like, okay, Tiffany's for like, I would, if my mom was a weed smoker, for example, I would get her a Tiffany stash box. You know what I mean? You can make a shit ton of money on this
I
stuff,
want one of those. We should
right?
get one of those.
A grinder that goes with it and fits. I mean, you can make so much money off of this stuff.
Well, all the makers out there, that are coming up with all these nifty gadgets. I mean, that would be a great
Yeah.
endeavor. Make digital joint rollers,
Right? Oh, that would be so cool. Oh my God. Yeah.
AI
See,
joint rolling.
people are missing out, man. If you guys are listening to our podcast and you're stealing our ideas, that's fine, but we'd like a kickback or
Yeah, at
something.
least send us a sample.
There's something interesting going on. So Marcia's downstairs watching Lollapalooza.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
that's right.
streaming on Hulu, and she says that that it's going bad right now. That people are passing out,
What?
and something about there being police there and drugs. I don't know exactly what's
Holy shit.
heat.
Because
Just various things.
Where is it? Where are they having it?
I think it's Chicago.
it's in Chicago. They had it on the evening news that I was just watching, and the story was about the COVID, requirements. You had to either have a vaccination card or proof of vaccination or proof of
Right.
a recent negative test, and that's the only way you could get even if you had a ticket. If you didn't have any of those things, you couldn't get in, and they were showing the line
Wow.
outside. So I imagine it was a combination of just the
I wonder what the
the
heat
first
is
luck
there.
of getting into a place like that.
And I wonder how hot it is there. And also, people are not being normal anymore when they go out in public. There have been articles and testimonials on certain pages I'm on that are like ex Whole Foods and, talking about still working retail, about how people have just completely not only lost their manners, but it's like, and I hate this term, but everyone has become a quote unquote Karen. I don't like the term, but it's like everyone has become this person, this horrible, demanding, I want it now. Instant gratification takes too long, and it's your fault, and it's your fault, and it's never my fault. I, I don't, they're so angry. They're so and then you add heat, and then you add something like this. And I'm sure people are going, are you masked? Are you not masked? Of course, there's going to be horrible fights.
Yeah, I
This is
believe a lot of
awful.
that has been generated by the effect of social media saying this is what's cool. If you want to be cool, you act this way. And certain people
Yeah,
go, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I want to be cool. It's like, no, you're being
exactly.
an asshole. Call it
It's
what it
exactly
is.
the way I feel. If I act like Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz, everybody will think I'm cool. Dude, that is so wrong.
You could get elected to public office in Florida or
Did you
Texas.
see him getting chased around by that woman? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? She just would not stop asking that question.
Oh, who is this? I missed something good.
This is, yeah, they were, of course, he was trying to do another one of his stand on the street corner and get somebody to listen to him. And um I don't think this is the same one as Marjorie Taylor Greene with the whistle guy, but there's this other woman who's a reporter, and she just keeps yelling after him. And I'll bet she yells it 20 plus times. Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? I mean,
Lord.
like, there's no way anybody else could have heard or said anything else.
Nobody probably wanted to. It's like, don't get in their way.
It was
A good point.
awesome. He's so gross. He's so gross. Do you think he's going to go to jail?
No, he'll find some weaselly way to buy his way out. That's what usually happens. If he was a poor black guy, then he'd already be on death row.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. He might go to jail.
I mean, they've got to sacrifice someone, right? And right now, they're trying to think who's
Rudy.
yeah, but Rudy,
Sacrifice.
they need someone who is making a lot of noise and who can take all the heat for Donald. His bad behavior, who's enabled him. Ted Cruz is too, he could be president. Matt Gaetz is this little shit that nobody likes. He'd be
Chip
great to
Roy
offer
or
up.
Louis Gohmert. That's
Yeah, but nobody knows that Matt Gaetz is like, he's like worldwide at this point. He's such a scumbag.
I don't know.
I
I
mean,
kind of remember seeing, you know, Haldeman and Ehrlichman behind bars, and I'm thinking, you know, it wouldn't be bad to see multiple people from the Trump party behind bars
well, we saw
I
Vice President
agree.
Spyro
because they're
actually
grifters.
behind bars. Yeah,
That's right.
he was in office and they put him in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that these guys are going to be able to evade it forever. Trump might be able to. I mean, I don't know. I keep wondering. It's kind of a race because, you know, he's like an older guy in bad health. So are they going to lock him away, or is he just going to keel over someday because, you know, his heart gives out or his lungs give out? I mean, he's had a pretty serious case of COVID,
Yeah.
and he's suffering from some form of mental illness, apparently.
Some form. He's definitely suffering from that. Well, no, we're suffering from his mental illness.
Yeah.
It's
The
true.
world is still suffering. He's still making impact on it. I
Well,
mean,
he's just a symptom, you know, of a larger problem,
he's the
and it's
biggest
a global
symptom.
problem. Well, he's pretty noticeable for sure, and he's
Yeah.
been pretty
He's like
loud.
that big zit right at the end of your nose when you have your first date with that really awesome person you've been wanting to date forever and ever and ever. And it's just like it won't go away and it hurts and it's super red. I mean, not that I've ever been through that, but I've heard stories about things like this.
He's the human analog for jock itch.
Well, the thing to know though is that if Trump disappears tomorrow, you know, if maybe he's taken by the rapture or something like that, fat
Oh,
chance.
shit.
I'm partying
But
right
if he
now.
just, you
Rapture.
know, if he goes away tomorrow, that doesn't fix the problems that we have
That's right.
with authoritarian and fascist leaning
No, we've got a Hydra.
actors.
They're just going to keep growing heads. We have to, and that's, I think the, the basis, you know, it's that pendulum thing. We just have to try to keep it even because sometimes it feels like the evil starts to win and it's really hard to bring it back to the light. So I don't know. I hope that's at some point we start heading towards the light. I still feel like we're going towards darkness.
Well, it goes in cycles because I remember during the Nixon administration how horrible things felt, and when he got his just desserts and left office, things kind of looked up for a while. You know, we got Gerald Ford, and he was a bumbling fool, and
Graceful.
he got kicked out of office by Carter, who was a great guy, but not a very effective president. But things looked up, and then of course we got Reagan, and things looked down again, and then we got Clinton, and things went all over the place. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just it's just a cycle that just keeps repeating itself
I
because
know.
there's always a plenty of stupidity to go around. As long as
Well,
we have that,
one way to break the cycle is to come to an understanding, which I think has been really hard, you know, come to an understanding that a president is not like going to be the heroic savior of anybody. It's
That's
just a
right.
guy, you know, and
Mhm.
some provide better leadership than others. But when I look back over all the presidents that I've known in the years that I've been around, I can't really point to any of those guys that I think was just wonderful. You know, I mean, they
Yep.
all had issues. There were screwy things going on in every administration, and you know, we sort of have to take it upon ourselves to. I mean, we have to remember that it's not their responsibility; it's our responsibility. You know, we
What's it
can't
Bob
like
Dylan said? Try to avoid leaders, watch your parking meters.
don't follow leaders. Watch the parking meters.
Roy Casagrande told that. I don't remember if he told this story on our show, but we were on a show together, and he said that Obama was being interviewed by Amy Goodman from
Democracy Now.
that one, and she said, "So you've made a lot of promises, you know, and now that you have won the presidency, do you plan on fulfilling them?" And he said, "Do you plan on making me?"
Mm.
And he's right.
good
You
point.
know, you have to stay involved. We have to stay involved, and we can't give up. And I know there are some days that just look like hell, but I mean, I think all of us, the majority of us, our audience, we're all trying to make the light happen. And that's good. And I'm not trying to get weird about light and dark, but I do feel like this is a very dark time for us. And I think that I'm just so happy that I know and am working with, you know, people who are trying to bring some justice and light. That's all.
Well, we do need to try to help our friends and colleagues separate in their minds politics from crime.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an issue right now. Is that I mean, especially with the Republican Party, is that rank and file Republicans really don't understand the extent to which their party has been hijacked by criminals.
Right.
We need to separate party
Grifters.
from wealth. That's you know, how many poor legislators are there? How many do you have that are you know, living from hand to mouth? Not a whole heck of a lot. There's a lot that are living in their mansions and being driven around by chauffeurs. So poor people don't get into politics.
Yeah, like if you could put before everyone this thing that says money's no object, please list these subject in order of importance. Like if the money was no object, it would be interesting to see what the Republicans put as opposed to progressives and Democrats. Like, is education anywhere at the top on any of them?
The wall.
The wall.
Let's build the wall.
Oh, we know.
We're about out of time.
The
kid.
womb. Let's build the womb.
What do we do it next time, John?
Huh?
What do we have next time around on Thursday?
I think that Susie came up with our next.
Who is it, Susie?
I believe this coming up Thursday, we're going to see Screamish again. Is that correct? Screamish
outstanding.
Joy.
I would have to look, and I can't because I have.
Because
this
after
together.
that, yes, look at that. That's good looking. Yes,
Let's
it is
see.
Screamish Joy. Please join us next
Screamish
week. It's going
Joy.
to be great. Yeah, she's fun. We're just going to hang out and talk again.
Yeah, we'll have
Like
a
we just did.
blast.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. This has
The
been
orchestra's going to play us out.
Stop where you are. Do not try to read. 111 from the 211th.
Bye, y'all.
Everything.
Bye. I'm going to go eat some cake.
Wrong.